How can someone choose what to do with the rest of their life when they are undecisive?
I appreciate the question, and this is a very normal question. It's just, hey, how do I figure out what I'm here to do, or what is my purpose, or how do I move forward in life with a plan when I'm really not sure? I would say a good plan, or even a fair plan, is better than no plan. And depending on what season of life you're in, and I don't know how old you are, so it may change my approach a little bit if I knew your age, but I would say generally it's better to just start taking action and move in a direction versus doing nothing. As a whole, there are exceptions to that, but as a whole, movement, it's much easier to direct something that's in movement than something that is standing still. And so I'd pick a path and I'd follow your effort more than your passion around that path. It turns out when people start to get good at things, they tend to get passionate about them as a rule. Again, there are exceptions. So I'd pick a path and start moving it. And then what will happen is, as you start moving forward, you'll start to notice, hey, I'm good at this, or I'm not good at this. I don't enjoy doing this. I do enjoy doing this. And it will kind of help direct how you move forward. Just make sure you're also very aware of how your emotional conditions, your patterns of thought are impacting your daily work. Sometimes what we're here to do gets muddled in our own emotional condition, and it's not always so obvious what's going on there. So that's where the work of practicing self-awareness and self-discovery can help you understand, how am I holding myself back? But in general, I would say move forward, take action, and it will kind of unfold for you if you just trust in that process. I say this all the time, but it's very true. If you planted an apple seed, you are only going to get an apple tree. And you don't have to think about it. You just know that's what's going to happen. All of us have seeds of greatness in us. All of us have seeds that bear our purpose. I firmly believe that. And all we have to do is get into a place where we can grow, and the conditions are ripe for growth, and what is in us will come out naturally. And then it's about doing the work, about removing those things that no longer serve us or holding us back from moving into that next purpose. Hope that helps.
Someone wanted your thoughts / review of the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
So I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was a teenager, and it had a huge impact on my life. I did not come from wealth. Nobody in my life that I knew ran a successful business that I was able to model. I didn't have examples around me of how to think like an entrepreneur versus thinking like an employee. I just knew at a very young age, through life circumstances, being raised by a single mom who always struggled financially, that I wasn't going to be in an environment where I wasn't going to get paid on my performance. And it seemed like all the wealthiest people got paid big chunks of money based on a result, not just for showing up. And it seemed like employees mostly got paid to show up and to get a very specific result that was limited. I saw this with my mom, so I knew that wasn't going to be me. And somebody gave me the book and said, well, I think you'd really enjoy this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And it was music to my ears because it gave me a framework of understanding the difference between the employee path and the entrepreneurial path. Now, it's his personal experience and it's his perception of both of his dads, right? His real dad, which he calls Poor Dad, and his rich dad, which is his best friend's dad. But there is a lot of truth in what he is saying. Now, I don't endorse Robert Kiyosaki as far as his views and the things he's espousing in the world today, but I also don't have a problem eating the meat, spitting out the bones, and acknowledging when somebody speaks truth. I don't really care who speaks truth, I seek truth. So as long as what they're saying is true, it doesn't really matter to me who is saying it. I can receive it and use it. For whatever reason, that seems to be a struggle for a lot of humanity. I don't really struggle with that. Truth is truth. So in the book, he kind of disparages his poor father's path and glorifies his rich father's path. The principles he's teaching, I think, are fairly sound when understanding the difference between being an entrepreneur and being an employee, but I wouldn't receive it as one is better than the other. It mostly has to do with what your outcomes are, what you're seeking. Now, if his poor father wanted the same things his rich father wanted, which it isn't clear to me that he did, then maybe you could judge it as, well, his path to getting there didn't work. But maybe he was passionate about education. Maybe he was in the education system because he wanted to make an impact there, which, if you remember the story, he's a teacher and then becomes a superintendent. However, that path didn't lead to wealth. I don't think everything is about money, however, since you're asking for my review of the book. But freedom is very hard in Western society without money. So being financially intelligent and knowing what to do with money and leveraging money is really important. The book teaches you that. It teaches you principally, anyway, what to do with that. and the different paths that people are on. So if his poor dad believed he was going to have the same outcomes as his rich dad and didn't get there, then maybe that's a lesson in what not to do. But perhaps his poor dad did exactly what he wanted to do and what he valued. The problem I would run into, and that was his pushback, is then to impose that his son should want the same things he wants, which obviously he pushed back against and became a successful entrepreneur in his own right. So it's a book I still recommend because it does a great job of explaining leverage, OPM, OPT, principles of business that can be very helpful when you are deciding what you want from your life, and that's it. My goal is to help people get clear about what they want, not impose on them what they should want.
What to do when your family does not like your personal growth?
First and foremost, you must be true to yourself. That is a hard thing to get your head around. I get it. For most of us it is. But you have to be true to yourself first. When you do that, it may take a little bit of time, but you will find your tribe. You will find people who believe and think and act like you do, for better or for worse. And so that becomes your family. I adore my family, meaning my blood family, but I don't look at family like blood. To me, it's kinship is found in like-mindedness, vision, values, conflict resolution. And so sometimes that means we're not as close to people in our family as we are what we would describe as dear friends or people that have been in our life for a long time but maybe aren't blood. I think we put a lot of weight, and I get it from an evolutionary standpoint, but I think we put a lot of weight in what we call family, and a lot of it we tie to blood relative. I don't necessarily buy into that. However, if the question is, it's really hard to continue to find the motivation to develop and grow when my family is constantly beating me over the head with it, I would probably seek to understand them and why they have a problem with it. What is their story? Is it because you're changing? Is it because you're inadvertently self-righteous? Do they feel judged because you're growing and the way you talk to them is like you're talking down to them? Or are they afraid the person you become will no longer find similarity or commonality with them, and so they're going to lose a family member? Some of these things are evolutionary in nature, some of them are psychological, some of them are egoistic. But in all cases, if I'm dealing with family members, I would seek to understand before I judge them, or to ever judge them. I would seek to understand, then to be understood. So truly, not in judgment, not out of irritation or frustration or out of emotion, seek to understand why they have a problem with your personal growth and hear it from them. Don't make assumptions about what you think it is. And that's generally what we do, right? Well, they don't like that I'm growing. They don't like that I'm changing. They don't like that I don't believe the same things they do. That could be, but take it a layer back. What is their story, right? Do they believe something different about the world that makes them feel like they're going to be alienated from you? Do they feel judged? Do they feel like you're being self-righteous? There's lots of stories that come into this, but my experience has been when we take the time to truly understand the other, we relinquish judgment of them, and once we do that, there's an opportunity to bring influence to the condition.